多少？炸鱼。有50个。
坏了，卡子了，卡子了，卡子了，卡子了，
燃烧了，
烧着下来了。咦，看看这它落到哪了？
你往旁一看。
咦，乱咕噜的，这走对不呀？
On June 30th, several videos of a rocket crashing, exploding, and catching fire in Gangyi City, Henan Province were leaked on social media in mainland China and immediately went viral. On the evening of the same day, Beijing Tianbing Aerospace Technology Company Limited issued the instructions on the testing of the first-stage power system of the Tianlong-3 large liquid launch vehicle, stating that during the Tianlong-3 test run, the first-stage rocket ignited normally. Due to the rocket body and the test, the structure failed at the connection point between the platforms, and the first-stage rocket detached from the launch pad. After liftoff, the rocket fell into a deep mountain 1.5 kilometers southwest of the test platform. The rocket body fell into the mountain and then disintegrated. After an investigation, it was determined that there were no casualties. However, a villager in Gangyi City told Jimu News that the rocket launch site was only 1 mile away from her home. A high school student near the place where the rocket crashed told overseas Chinese media that the rocket was launched from Qinglong Mountain in the middle of Gangyi County, very close to his home, and he heard the explosion at home. His classmates took a video of the rocket falling at school, and the explosion shattered the glass in the school. According to Chinese state media reports, the local government notified villagers to evacuate before launching the rocket. However, the student said that the government only notified people on the mountain to evacuate, but neither he nor the people nearby received any notification. He felt that the government had gone too far because if the rocket landed on the school, the consequences would have been disastrous. According to the student's video, objects were knocked down from the school building's roof. The rocket accidentally detached from the launch pad and then fell and exploded, causing concern and heated discussions among netizens. Officials immediately came out to maintain stability and said there were no casualties. However, the netizen message area showed that many people raised questions. So close to the residents? With such a dense population in Henan, there is still a place to fly rockets. I'm impressed. This thing is scarier than a gas station. Gas stations are not to be set up in residential areas. The test flight route should also be planned away from towns. It feels like playing with fire right now. Weibo user Bloodjingqi posted, Tianbing technology is too low level this time. Explosive rocket-style research and development is essentially at the expense of controllable radical launches, fully exposing the core of the problem. Lao Ma, Musk's rockets are specially built launch pads and there are no people around them, and they have a rough estimate of the severity of the rocket explosion in advance, and the safety measures are pretty good. The Tianlong-3 accident in Gangyi, Henan Province was caused by the static test of 9 engines on the first stage of the ground. The ground fixture missed the rocket. It was completely unprepared and broke through the final safety measures. It went to the sky in a daze, quickly losing control and boomed in the mountains. The article noted there was no preparation for the launch in advance. Gangyi was just a ground test site, not a launch site. It did not have launch conditions. The safety measures failed during the incident and it went straight into the sky and boomed. The staff, Gangyi citizens, and the masses were all dumbfounded. It belongs to a very low level and stupid mistake. We can only pray that there are no casualties. Mainland self-media Global Science Cat pointed out that the Tianlong-3 rocket crashed in Gangyi, Henan. This is indeed a bit incredible. The structure of the connection of the rocket body test bench failed, and such a problem actually occurred. This is probably an extremely rare aerospace event. In terms of performance, this rocket is completely comparable to SpaceX's Falcon 9. It has a diameter of 3.8 meters, a takeoff mass of 590 tons, a low Earth orbit transport capacity of 17 tons, and a sun-synchronous orbit transport capacity of 14 tons. All the data looked good, but after the ignition, something went wrong. The Beijing authorities have always claimed they are leading in all fields and will catch up immediately even if they fall behind. But in recent years, Chinese people have frequently photographed rockets emitting yellow smoke and falling. Less than 10 days ago, on June 24th, an X account posted a message stating that residents in the Miao Autonomous Prefecture in Guizhou recently photographed rocket debris falling. It is worth noting that when people took photos of the falling space debris, others reminded them not to upload the videos to Douyin. The purpose of the special reminders may be because they don't want to make the family scandal public, or they may be worried that after people shoot the video, they will be troubled by the local police to maintain stability. X account Byron Wan posted a video on June 23rd saying that after the Long March 2C carrier rocket carrying a Chinese and French astronomical satellite was launched from the Xichang Satellite Launch Center in Sichuan, the booster fell into a village, probably in Guiding, Guizhou County. The video showed that a giant unknown object trailing long yellow smoke fell from the sky, accompanied by a loud noise, and finally fell into the hill behind the village, not far from the residences. Some people ran away in fear. A netizen shared the video on Weibo and said, "Netizens were out playing when they suddenly saw an object falling from the sky, and yellow smoke was coming out when it was about to hit the ground." A netizen who appears to have done research on rocket launches posted, "According to the notice of the flight mission before the rocket launch, the first level drop area of the Changtu Sea was in Qian, Guizhou Province near Guiding County in a southeast prefecture. In inland launch sites except for Zhouchuan, especially in Xichang, rocket debris often falls near densely populated areas. Most of the rockets in Xichang are normal temperature rockets such as the Changtu 3. It's bad, but at least Triple B cannot be replaced for a while, and the only way to solve it is to wait for the development of the recyclable rockets in the future." Some netizens asked, "Isn't the forecast and control of the landing area now very accurate? It is rare to see such a panic." The netizen who has studied rockets replied, "When the notice of flight mission was released, the rocket landing area was given a quadrilateral area with 4 points corresponding to 4 coordinates. As for where the rocket landing point will be in this area, it all depends on luck. I was actually pretty lucky this time, at least it didn't hit the house directly." China's state news agency Xinhua Net announced on June 22nd that the Long March 2C carrier rocket carrying a Chinese and French astronomical satellite was launched from the Xichang Satellite Launch Center that day. However, there was no official follow-up report on the fall of the rocket debris. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense pointed out on the 22nd that at 3 p.m. that day, the Chinese Communist Party carried out a launch mission carrying a satellite on a carrier rocket at the Xichang Satellite Launch Center in Sichuan. The rocket's flight path passed through southern Taiwan and headed towards the western Pacific. Most orbital-class rockets are designed so that after their first stage separates from its upper stage, it is safely pushed into the ocean or landed safely on the ground for reuse. But China's Long March rockets often re-enter the atmosphere uncontrollably, and each time debris hits the Earth, it raises concerns because rocket fragments could fall over residential areas. As early as 2020, fragments of China's Long March 5B fell in the West African country Ivory Coast, damaging several local buildings. In comparison, European rocket designs are very safe. Rudiger Albat, the European Space Agency's senior engineer in charge of the Ariane 5 heavy-lift rocket, said in an interview with Deutschwelle, "Our European rockets were designed from the beginning. The first stage will not be put into orbit. The heavy first stage of the rocket will not fly into orbit and circle the Earth. Instead, it will fly along a parabolic trajectory after separation. In this way, its trajectory can be accurately calculated in advance. This allows us to plan for it to fall in a designated area of the Pacific Ocean before launch so that we can plan the no navigation zone in advance to avoid risks to the ship and the crew. The key point here is to prevent the first stage of the rocket from flying too high or too far. The trajectory can be calculated in advance." Albert said that unlike the 1.5 stage configuration of the Long March 5B, that is, only the first stage in addition to the booster, the Ariane 5 series rockets all have a second stage. This means that after abandoning the fuel-exhausted first stage, it is the much smaller and lighter second stage of the rocket that will ultimately deliver payloads, such as the space station capsule or satellites into orbit, even if it fails during re-entry into the atmosphere. As a result, it is uncontrollable. The second stage rocket debris is more likely to burn than the larger and heavier first stage debris, and the risk to the surface is much smaller. The Beijing authorities have always emphasized that the final stage of a rocket is ablated and destroyed upon re-entry into the atmosphere, which is a common international practice. However, due to the Long March 5B's unique 1.5 stage configuration, its last stage is the first stage. Thus, it is not in the same weight class as other rockets' final stages, which are relatively lightweight and can be almost wholly burned when re-entering the atmosphere. Astrophysicist McDowell said that in the past 30 years, only China has launched such large rockets into orbit and allowed them to fall at will. Although the risk to humans from landing rocket debris is small, space observers are not happy with the uncontrolled fall. Experts say the impact would be similar to a small plane crash and likely far less deadly than the missile attacks and accidents that occur every day elsewhere. But this risk can be mitigated. Both the United States and the European Union have risk assessments and will not launch if there is more than a 1 in 10,000 chance of causing harm. China's standards appear to be much lower. In 2021, after the second launch of the Long March 5B rocket, it experienced an uncontrolled flight for more than a week, causing concerns from all walks of life. The booster debris ended up in the Indian Ocean, near the Maldives. At the time, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said it was clear that China was not meeting responsible standards in disposing of their space debris. Countries engaged in outer space activities must minimize the risk to humans and property caused by the return of space objects to Earth and be as transparent as possible about these actions. Whether or not rocket debris ultimately harms humans, it's unclear why China's space program allows this to happen again and again. Considering the Chinese Communist Party's launch plan, there may be more cases of rockets returning out of control in the next few years. The lack of control over rocket launch paths will continue to cause concern for people around the world.
抓啊！抓鱼！